Obviously, you do not want a global war to break out, but the reality is the world is a tinderbox. Iran's hell-bent on eradicating the state of Israel and the United States.
Hi, everybody, and welcome into the Sanity Podcast. Dave Briggs, Allison Camerata, a couple of former CNN and Fox News anchors, and we always approach every story with that perspective in mind. And another person that does so is Congressman Mike Lawler from the state of New York. Why does he do so? He has no choice. It's a district that has gone blue just about every election for my lifetime, and that's what's impressive about what you've done, Congressman. You've somehow turned a reliable blue district sort of red, although Kamala Harris took it. How did you do that? What are the issues that matter to your constituents that allowed you to flip it?
Well, there's no question it's a difficult district. There's 80,000 more Democrats than Republicans by enrollment. It's home to the Clintons and George Soros and, Martha Stewart and Al Pacino, among others. So it's by no means a Republican bastion, but the folks in the district are common sense. I mean, the fact is half of the households in my district have a cop, a firefighter, a veteran living in the household. I have one of the largest Jewish populations in the country in my district. Over 50% of adults have a college degree or higher. So it's affluent and educated, yet blue collar, working class. 19% of my district is Latino. So it's very diverse, a lot of different needs and issues. But at the end of the day, as I often say, whether you're Republican or Democrat doesn't matter. Most people care about a few basic things in life: a good paying job to provide for their families, a quality education for their children, access to housing and healthcare, and they want to live in a safe neighborhood. And those are the issues that I've talked about, run on, regardless of community or party. I go into every neighborhood in my district. I did over 1,200 in-person events last Congress. I've hosted over 50 town hall meetings and mobile office hours. I do a lot of press. Last Congress, we did over $4 billion in earned media. So we engage, and then legislatively, I focus on the issues that matter to my district and build bipartisan consensus. I had 11 bills passed last Congress, 6 signed into law by Joe Biden. And so, it's it's a lot of work, but, I think people are generally appreciative of the fact that I show up everywhere, I engage on the issues, and I speak my mind. And whether they agree with me or not on everything, they at least know I'm fighting for them.
So, Congressman, you've set the table perfectly for us because those are all the issues we want to talk about. So first, President Trump's big budget bill, you may call it the big, beautiful bill, as he does. Where are you on that now? I had read this morning that you're, the salt issues, the local property taxes, the local taxes continue to be a sticking point. So where are you with it?
Look, when we were negotiating the bill in the House, the 3 main issues that I was focused on was SALT within the tax provisions, Medicaid, and then the green energy tax credits. And there was a core group of us that fought like heck over all of these issues. We negotiated in good faith. You're never going to get everything you want out of legislation. But we made significant progress on a number of these issues. There were changes made in the end that, we didn't agree with everything. And so it goes over to the Senate. And so that obviously is a negotiation right now within the Senate chamber and conference. And yet we are engaged with senators on a number of these issues, continuing to work through it. But one thing that I've made very clear, if the SALT number is changed, I will be a no on the bill. And, this is something that matters not only to my district and those like mine, but it really matters across the country, whether people realize it or not. The standard deduction was doubled, absolutely, and that is a big help. But the reality is when you cap state and local property taxes, that is a big chunk of what people itemize on their federal income tax returns. And so, the current $10,000 cap, which the Senate seemingly is looking to stay at, just would arbitrarily and capriciously hurt my constituents. And 29 states over the last 7 years blew past that $10,000 cap. So that is unacceptable. It's not something any of us would support. And I've been very clear that will be dead on arrival in the House if that's what the Senate sends back.
Quickly, Congressman, how many are with you on that pledge? Because it is currently at 10,000. It was at 30,000. How many have joined you in saying we will not support that bill?
Well, in the negotiation, we were able to get it up to 40,000 in the House version of the bill. The Senate now saying they want to stay at 10,000. There are 5 of us that are rock solid on this and will not budge. And that is more than sufficient to kill the bill.
Speaking of money, did you think that the big military parade that also celebrated the Army's birthday, it also was something that President Trump was very excited about, celebrating his own birthday on Flag Day. It was $45 million. Was it worth it?
Look, I think obviously we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. West Point is just north of my district. It's about 5 minutes outside my district. And next year we are approaching the 250th anniversary of our country, America's birthday, 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. And so obviously there's going to be a lot of celebrations. There's going to be a lot of festivities across the country in communities, small and large. And obviously, as a nation, we're going to celebrate that.
Yeah, but that the reason I ask is just because DOGE just finished trying tons of stuff and SNAP benefits in our state, in Connecticut. 45 million could pay for people's food stamps in Connecticut. So was it worth?
Look, I certainly understand the juxtaposition of obviously what we're doing down in Washington to try and rein in spending. We're $36 trillion in debt. We've added $30 trillion to our debt over 20 years. I mean, think about the fact that in 20 years, we've added $30 trillion in debt. There's a lot of reasons for it. Both parties are responsible for it. And we have to address that long term. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have, festivities. It doesn't mean that we're not going to, address the issues that we're dealing with and the programs that need to be funded, as well as obviously celebrate our country. When you look at a program like SNAP, which you just mentioned, what the bill talks about is a cost share. Under current law, there is no state cost share on SNAP. The federal government picks up the full share. This is talking about a 5% state share, which exists for most programs. The states pick up a chunk of the spending. SNAP obviously is a critical program. It's something that I have supported and continue to support. Food insecurity is a major issue across our country. Yeah. But obviously, as we deal with all these issues, Allison, it's not going to be, we can't celebrate our nation because we have spending problems that we have to deal with. We're going to have to find that balance on all of it.
Indeed. And it was a weekend of glaring contrast, a split screen weekend with the No Kings protest going on from your state of New York all the way to Los Angeles, estimated somewhere between 4 and 6 million people in 2,000 U.S. cities came out to protest the president and his policies. What do you make of that?
Look, it's part of our country. This is what makes America a beacon of democracy around the globe. That you can have these protests, people can voice their opinions and their frustrations, their concerns, and be able to, at the same time, celebrate our military. I mean, you have that juxtaposition. So I don't make much of it other than this is part of our democracy. This is what makes our country special. It's something we should protect and cherish. And people have a right to voice their concerns and their opinion. At the same time, obviously, President Trump got 77 million votes last November. Republicans won the House and the Senate, and we are focused on a number of key issues, including obviously addressing the economy, cutting taxes for the middle class and the working class, and addressing border security, deportation of criminal aliens in this country, as well as obviously the international crises that are going on around the globe. And you see, obviously, the conflict in the Middle East. I serve as chair of the Middle East and North
Do you like that
African
the
Summit.
president is deporting hardworking immigrants that are, filling restaurants and hotels and farms and really the backbone of our economy, agriculture, landscaping, you name it. You know how many jobs they support in New York alone.
Mm-hmm. So immigration to me is one of the biggest issues that we have to address as a nation. And it's not just securing the border and deporting criminal aliens. You have over 20 million people who are here undocumented, and you can't just round them all up and kick them out. The reality is that you have people who have been here for a decade, 2 decades, whose families have been here, whose children or grandchildren are American citizens. They pay their taxes, even though they are undocumented. Maybe they came here on a visa and they overstayed the visa, but they have a social security number and a work authorization. So there are a lot of challenges with our immigration system. It's fundamentally broken. I've said it for years. It's why I supported the Dignity Act, and we're going to be reintroducing that, a bipartisan immigration reform bill that would, A, focus on securing the border, which I fully support, B, dealing with the undocumented, including DACA and TPS, and the asylum and parole process, which does need to be reformed. And C, dealing with the legal immigration system, which is fundamentally broken. The fact is, we have a shortage of doctors, nurses, home health aides, ag workers, construction workers, engineers, hospitality workers, restaurant workers, teachers. We need an immigration system that will actually fill our economic needs as a country long term, that will help support vital programs like Social Security and Medicare by paying into the system with tax revenue from working. So, when you look at actually where our debt is and why it has escalated so quickly, a large part of it is the baby boomer generation is retiring. And more reliant on programs like Social Security and Medicare. And you need a workforce that's going to come up behind. And so that requires, obviously, an education system that is producing the workforce we need. It requires an immigration system that is helping, backfill. And obviously, long term, the reality is, our birth rate has declined from 2 children per woman to 1.66 over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
We have to address these issues, and that really ties to affordability because having a family is expensive and difficult. So there's a lot of things that are interconnected. So just rounding people up and deporting them is not going to fix the economic challenges that we're facing.
I mean, it seems like President Trump is rethinking his most aggressive stance on immigration now and saying some of these same things, although all of that was easily predicted. I mean, the fact that it was going to hurt the agriculture sector and the hospitality sector, as you lay out, everybody saw that coming. So it's
I think the challenge here is the system is so broken, and it's been broken for decades. President Bush tried to fix this, and frankly, a lot of people should have taken that deal back then.
For sure. But then there was the bipartisan deal.
There was the Gang of 13.
President Trump killed the most recent one that James Langford won.
Well, but I will say that one was a faux deal at best. It would have codified catch and release into law. Nobody was going to support that. That's part of the reason we're dealing with this crisis to begin with. So you have to look at what needs to be done. The border is relatively secure, obviously, certainly in comparison to what we saw last year and the year prior under President Biden. Obviously, criminal aliens, from my vantage point, they should be deported. If you're here illegally and you've committed crimes either in your home country or here, you should be deported.
Sure, but that's not what the president was most recently doing.
But you have people who have previous orders of deportation against them. We're not keeping people here who are here illegally, who have already gone through the process and have orders of deportation. So then the question becomes, how do you deal with the rest of the migrant population that is here? And from my vantage point, especially if somebody has family who are American citizens, children, grandchildren, if they've been here for an extended period of time, if they're in the workforce and they're paying taxes, we have to be cognizant of that.
Congressman, one of the things Americans were protesting over the weekend was the president's grift, if you will, how much money he's been making selling access to the Oval Office with his companies intertwined with foreign governments, with his two children, globetrotting the world, making not just millions, hundreds of millions of dollars since he took office, an estimated $300 million on World Liberty Financial alone that will be worth billions of dollars at some point down the road. They just rolled out Trump Mobile. You were very vocal, and I give you credit for that, for criticizing the Biden family and for what Hunter Biden did for making money related to the access to the Oval Office. How can you be comfortable with what the Trump family is doing right now?
I think obviously every elected official has a responsibility to not only address appearances of impropriety, but make sure, in fact, there is no impropriety. And when I look at, serving in Congress, I don't trade stocks. I think stock trading should be illegal in Congress. I think the reality is you are aware of way too much information about things that are happening. You're engaged with lobbyists from different businesses and companies. You just have too much information at your disposal to engage on that. We are also, as a member of the Financial Services Committee, in the process right now of actually putting forth a regulatory framework when it comes to digital assets and crypto. And I think for many of my colleagues who are very concerned about how the president has made money off that, it was obviously reported in his financial disclosure that was just put out. Having a regulatory framework in place, a federal regulatory framework in place, is critical. And so that's something that should garner bipartisan support. We should be able to have a digital assets framework. Many of my Democratic colleagues, have been screaming about this. And so they should be working with us to actually pass legislation on stable coins, on crypto,
so hang on,
et cetera.
You are not comfortable with the way the president is directly profiting from his position. It sure sounds.
Look, I think for all of us, any elected official whatsoever, the objective is to serve. Obviously, the president certainly has made a lot of sacrifices in his own business and life to run for office and serve, and I respect that. But the objective here is obviously on service to the American people. And I understand his sons obviously they're running a business that has long been in place, the Trump organization. But it should not be tied. Obviously, it should not be tied to anything that is happening with the White House or any agreements that are coming with foreign governments or otherwise.
But it is, Congressman. I mean, that's the problem, is that this isn't about the Trump organization. This is about Liberty Financial, World Financial. That's a new company. That's about the crypto stuff. And they are.
I understand. You're obviously you're not going to be able to prevent individuals from creating entities or businesses, but obviously it should not be tied to anything that is happening out of the White House or in Washington. And that's also, again, that's why I believe fundamentally we need a regulatory framework in place when it comes to digital assets and crypto. That has not occurred. Congress has not passed a federal regulatory framework. This is something we worked on last Congress. We could not get the Senate to move on it. We passed FIT 21 through the House. Senate wouldn't move on it. Elizabeth Warren blocked it. So if Democrats feel so strongly about this, which I share the concern about any appearance of impropriety or any impropriety, then we should be working to get a bipartisan federal regulatory framework in place when it comes to digital assets.
I mean, Donald Trump will already have amassed hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. They disclosed it. They disclosed it in his federal ethics
That's all
disclosure.
that's what gives you comfort that they discuss it. All right, let's move on. Just
No,
because I
not
know,
that. No, I'm just saying it was disclosed. So
yeah.
obviously we know that, in fact, he did make money off it.
Is Tucker Carlson, are Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson wrong about the U.S.'s involvement in the Israel-Iran war?
Yeah. Look, when I look at these issues, yes, I understand we don't want to be in forever wars. Yes, I understand we don't want to be engaged in trying to nation build or regime change. But the reality is the world is a tinderbox, and there are real challenges across the globe. And as chair of the Middle East and North Africa subcommittee, obviously what is happening in the Middle East is something that is of paramount concern to me. Israel is our greatest ally in the world. And the fact is, Iran's hell-bent on eradicating the state of Israel and the United States. And this unholy alliance between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea seeks to undermine and destabilize the U.S., Israel, Europe, and the free world, period. And I think the fact, when I look at what is happening with respect to Iran's attempt to get a nuclear weapon, Republicans and Democrats, including Tucker Carlson, made very clear years ago that Iran could never get a nuclear weapon, and they had to be stopped at all costs. He's seemingly since changed his perspective on this. But Israel has to defend itself. I was there just a few weeks ago. Bibi Netanyahu made very clear, we fight or we die. That is the existence that they find themselves in, and the reality they find themselves in. So, I think it is imperative the U.S. Needs to continue to support Israel as we move forward on this. If steps need to be taken, to assist in this, I would support that. I think the reality is Israel cannot fully eliminate Iran's nuclear weapons program alone, but they've sure done a lot of damage over the last week, and that's a great testament to their ingenuity and their willingness to fight.
And I know you're about out of time. No more destabilizing force in the world than Russia, of course, today. And your colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham, is working together with our senator, Connecticut Senator Richard Blumenthal, to push the administration on tougher sanctions on Russia. What, if anything, will get the Trump administration to get tough on Russia?
Look, I have been a strong supporter of Ukraine. My wife is from Moldova. Her family lives on the Ukraine border. I know full well that if Ukraine collapses, Moldova and other former Soviet satellite states will fall with it. It's just a reality of the dynamic in Eastern Europe. And the bottom line to me is this should have been done on the front end of this war. There should have been secondary sanctions put in place against Putin and Russia. And the Europeans should have stopped purchasing Russian gas long ago. And the weapons not only should have gotten there sooner, but the restrictions placed on Ukraine in actually prosecuting the war should have been eased. Now, fast forward, obviously 3 years into this war, the challenge, of course, is that the longer this drags on, the harder it really is, absent U.S. troops on the ground, which I don't think anybody wants. And so the question really becomes, how do you get this conflict to come to an end? I believe wholeheartedly that the president was right to try and negotiate, but Vladimir Putin, like the Ayatollah, is not somebody who's truly interested in a negotiation. And so really what it boils down to is implementing those secondary sanctions. The Europeans need to cut off the purchase of Russian gas. There needs to be a much more aggressive posture when it comes to the economic sanctions imposed against Russia. I do believe the president is getting to that point. I mean, if Putin does not come to the table and actually negotiate a settlement, which I believe is probably unlikely, then these steps are going to need to be taken. Now, here's the other thing, and everybody's got to recognize this. These conflicts are not in a silo. Russia and Iran have been working cohesively for years on Syria, on drone capabilities. China obviously purchasing Iranian petroleum, the biggest purchaser, 90+% of Iran's sales go to China. That's what's funded Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. So all of this is interconnected. Obviously, you do not want a global war to break out. So this is way more delicate than I think people want to acknowledge as we work through that. And so that's kind of the challenge as you deal with all of this.
But
it's not that simple just to say, well, if Russia doesn't do, we're going to do this, because what you don't want to have happen in this moment is Russia and Iran all of a sudden start launching into the Middle East at the same time. This is way more complicated than I think people.
But Senator Graham and Blumenthal say it isn't that complicated. They say they have 85 Senate votes. You couldn't get 85 Senate votes to say the sky is blue.
Oh, look, I think you can get the sanctions in place. There's no question about that.
So why won't the president do it?
Well, I think you're trying to actually avoid a larger global conflict. Obviously, you put sanctions in place, right? Look what we're doing with Syria. We're lifting the sanctions on Syria. Why? To give them the potential to actually create a stable government in Syria. The Syrians are now saying that they're willing to strike down any missiles that fly from Iran towards Israel. That is a huge, huge step forward. So, look, you're trying to use diplomacy. You're trying to avoid a much larger conflict. Again, I agree with Lindsay about the need for the sanctions, but mind you, that should have been done on the front end of this war, not 3 years into it.
Fair. We started this conversation about your red, blue, kind of purple district. I imagine you're not the same when it comes to your sports preferences, though I'm curious. Yankees, Mets, Giants, Jets, Knicks, Nets, Devils, Rangers, where are you?
I like to win. So I am a Yankees fan, a Giants fan, a Rangers fan, and a Knicks fan. Although the Knicks, they finally made some progress and then they fired their coach. But I was a vendor at Yankee Stadium when I was in college. So I'm a big Yankees fan. And the 94 Stanley Cup champion Rangers were my favorite sports championship ever. Mark Messier was my childhood sports idol. Obviously, the Yankees in the 90s and early 2000s were great. And then, of course, the Giants had those epic Super Bowl wins over the New England Patriots and Tom Brady. So I'm sure that broke your heart, but I was celebrating.
I covered them all as a sports reporter. I am here at a golf tournament with Marty St. Louis, so I'm sure that's a name you're very familiar with. What did you sell at Yankee Stadium? Hot dogs, Cokes, pretzels, what?
So the Yankee Stadium, when you were a vendor, it was seniority based. So all the guys that were there from the 70s had beer. So I had hot dogs, soda, Cracker Jacks, peanuts. So it was fun, though. It was a great experience.
Classics. I mean,
Exactly.
Obviously, you must have worked your way up the pecking order because a good box of Cracker Jack, that goes at the
people after all those beers, they needed something to go with it. So.
Congressman Mike Lawler from the 17th in New York. Really appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much for joining us here on Sanity. Really enjoyed it, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Congressman. Great to talk to you.